Okay, this is Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi here in Yerushalyim HaKodesh. Our second shir in Mishna Berura, Rabbi Shlomo first, and learning, as I said, Mishna Berura, Shin Lamed Tes, Hilchos Shabbos, taking a quick break to discuss the halachas of things which are very relevant every Shabbos in one way or another. So here in Shin Lamed Tes Gimel, let's just review, we did a bit of this before, but let's just review the Mechaber and then also the Ramah. We'll be your last day for a few days, a week or two, so maybe we'll give you a chance to
thank you.
To leave on a high note.
So it's Ein Mitapchin, is that what we are?
Yes, Ein Mitapchin, exactly.
Ein Mitapchin, L'Hakos, Kaf al Kaf. You can't clap your hands.
One palm to the next.
One palm to the next.
One hand to the next. One palm, you're not supposed to clap your hands.
Lo Misakin L'Hakos, Kaf al Yareach. Yarech. And you can't clap your hand against your thigh.
Yep, palm against your thigh.
Palm against your thigh. Below the rakdim, and you cannot dance. Gezerah, this is a rabbinical decree. Shema, perhaps yitakain clay shear. We will come to fix a musical instrument.
All these three things are forbidden rabbinically because of the concern that you may come to fix a musical instrument, which would be a real issue of HaKodesh. You can cleave.
Vafilu l'hakos, and even to clap the etzba.
HaKodesh is actually to bang.
To bang the etzba al hakarka. To bang on the ground. What's the etzba?
A finger.
A finger on the ground.
This is like tapping.
The tap. Okay. O al haluach, or on the table.
Right. That's even just one finger. If you put your making your
That's
fist.
5 times. 5 times the virus. O achas keneged achas, or to snap your fingers.
Snapping.
Kederech ha-mishorim, like the way of the arousers.
These are singers.
The singers. No, the singers, sheer. O l'kashkesh be'egos, l'tinok, or to shake nuts for a baby.
Yeah, you make like a rabbit. Make a rabbit.
Right.
What's the
Kashkesh is to shake.
O l'sachek bo v'zug k'dei she'yishtok, or to I don't know what sachek.
Sachek is like to play. If you want to play with a zouk, like a clapper. You have a clapper.
Right? Clapper. Right. In order to entertain.
Yishtok. You want to quiet the child down. You want to distract the child from his misery, whatever is causing him to cry. So you distract his misery by making noises.
Kol zeh, all of this, kiyotze bo asur, goes out for him in Vera.
Kol zeh kiyotze, that's something like it. It's a phrase, kiyotze. All this and everything like it, similar to it, is asur.
Okay.
All,
Gezerah, it's a decree. Shema, maybe yitakain clay shear, that he will fix a musical instrument. So all of these things have to do with the fear of a musical instrument being fixed. Ulasaper kila'achar yad mutar. And
To clap.
to clap in another way of the hands is permissible.
Right.
So that was, we said that was like this.
Like that. If you do that the opposite way, then it'll be permissible.
Then we bring up the question that most people do not know how to fix violin or all these other things. So why are we so much concerned?
Yeah, we did. We brought that up. We asked and answered.
And we answered that if one person will do it, that's why we have to.
True, even if one person we have to be concerned, but we see the Ramah is going to take this factor into consideration. The Ramah is going to have an opinion to be lenient with this, so he's going to take this into consideration.
It's really effective.
Yes.
So we should read the Ramah.
Yes, we've gone through the Ramah.
The ha and this dimisapkin ume rakdin. This banging and dancing. Ha idna. What's ha idna?
Nowadays,
Nowadays.
or presently.
Below the mechinan bahu. Nowadays we don't mechinan
Okay,
in
like,
it.
right.
We're
Okay,
not
it's
strict
like-
in it.
No, like this. Vaha the masakin nowadays in our time presently that we do clap, and there is dancing. Lo michanim bo, and we don't protest against them, right? And we don't protest from Mechina. We don't protest against them, right?
Mishum, because the mutav sheyu shogigin the
This is
but it's not intentional. It's not
No.
an intentional violation.
yeah. Mishum the mutav, it's better. Mishum, because the mutav, it's better. Shayu shogigim, it's better that they do this unintentionally, and that v'chulu means means etc. But the phrase is, it's mutav shiyu shogim v'lo mezidi. It's better that they do something wrong unintentionally than they'll do something wrong intentionally.
So we
Is the Ramah giving up on educating people?
No, has to show.
So, but that seems to say, oh, well, people can do it anyway, so they're not going to listen, so let's do this way. Maybe we should make a campaign to tell them it's wrong.
So like this, the Ramah, he's making an observation, right? We have the mechaber, we have the prohibition, rabbinical prohibition, and the Ramah is taking a look, and you see that people are going in and doing this.
Doing it anyway.
They're doing this. And not only that's one thing, but the question is, why aren't the rabbis protesting? You know, the Talmidei Chachamim, the rabbis, the knowledgeable people in Klal Yisrael should be protesting. We don't want another Jew to have to show and be over and Isser Shabbos, even Isser Rabbanim, right? Like eating milk within 6 hours of meat is an Isser Rabbanim, right? You wouldn't want that. If you know somebody is needy, you don't want to give him, you don't want to let him eat milk within that time. He's going to be violating an Isser Rabbanim, right? So we care about every other Jew. We don't want them to be over Averis. We don't want them to transgress Hashem. So the question that the Ramah is dealing with is we see that there seem to be people that go ahead and they are clapping, they are dancing, right? And no one's protesting, right? So the question is, why is there no protest? So the answer to that there's no protest, it's better that you do it unintentionally rather than do it intentionally. And if we will go ahead and tell them about it, if we protest against them, right, they will be doing something which is up until this time ostensibly unintentional. They'll be doing it intentionally because now we've informed them we've read them the riot act. You know, when they got rid of the riot act, I said, okay, everyone tried to go home, and who's not going to go home is going to get tear gassed. Right? That's the story. You read the riot act, another way, now people need to get arrested, there's new tear gas, there's new ramifications. Right? So Ruchnis as well. We'd rather have people, if we can't protest against them properly, in a way that will be accepted properly, and have them desist from what they're doing, which is wrong. So we rather have them do it unintentionally rather than doing it intentionally.
But if you use that approach, you could get you into trouble. You say, oh, these people are doing their favors, and it's better that we don't tell them they should do it for struggle.
Right.
So when do you use this attitude? When do you stop? When do you say, Adkan? It's not so simple.
No, it's not so simple. So to go into that, just briefly, if you want, you can, maybe we finish this. We can go into that a little bit more.
I'll give you an illustration. A woman is not supposed to wash dishes Shabbos lunch unless she is going to use them. Okay. Because you're hachana, you're preparing the dishes for after Shabbos. But there's a shita that if the kitchen is messy and the house is messy, it's going to pashter, it's going to spoil her Shabbos. Under those circumstances, she could wash the dishes. Okay, I heard that. But that's a very ticklish situation. Some people will be concerned by a mess, others will not be concerned. When could you invoke this principle? When you cannot invoke this principle?
Just practically speaking, you take a look what Kalabala Bhakta is. That she leave the dishes from one meal to the next in the weekdays, right? If she doesn't care, if she'll let the sink go pile up for 2 or 3 days, so why on Shabbos is she so concerned about doing the dishes, right? But if she's you have people with fastidious, maybe fastidious, there's istiness and fastidious, right? And if she's concerned about the cleanliness of the kitchen. So every time there's an extra spoon or cup in the sink, she goes and cleans it up, and that means something to her. So she's that kind of a person. So it could be a person like that she wouldn't be able to take a little rest on Shabbos afternoon because she's worried, concerned about the kalim and the dishes.
Somebody will come, a house is messy, they'll upset it. So
there's room for leeway. In general, it's better to leave it alone. Shabbos is made Olam Haba, just like you don't want to be concerned in Olam. Ask somebody, would you like to be concerned about doing your dishes in Olam Haba?
Some people, I know some people will.
That's what I work to achieve.
I have a clean house. That's my Olam Haba.
For eternity.
Shabbos is supposed to be in Olam Haba, so we try and, people ask, how's with Shabbos? So we try and make it main as much as possible. And it's brought in the Sfarim. A person, if he wants to know a little bit about what his next world is going to be like, he should take a look what his Shabbos is going to be like, his life. It's a restful day, an enjoyable day, without concerns and worries. So we can hope to have that in the next world as well. So you should try and prepare for Shabbos in that way and conduct yourself for Shabbos in that way as well. Because that's what we're here for. So in terms of giving tochacha, so there's a halacha here in Hilchos Erev Yom Kippur, Sudas Mafsekes. There's a very common situation which the Ramah also dealt with. But as you know, we're supposed to eat very especially well on Erev Yom Kippur, so we should have koichas energy for the fast, to fast properly and pray properly for the long day of Yom Kippur awaiting us. That's beginning at night. And so you have to have a special Sudas Mafsekes, a special extra meal before the fast begins, to have an extra special meal.
So it's a mitzvah to eat before fast.
Yes. Actually, it's a mitzvah, in Erev Yom Kippur, according many days, an actual mitzvah d'oraisa to eat extra specially on Erev Kippur. We'll go into that right now. Nevertheless, and not only that, there's also a mitzvah we have every Shabbos of what we call Tosefes Shabbos. Right? We're supposed to take Shabbos Makabel Shabbos before sunrise, I'd say. At least minimum of at least 2 minutes. And according to some Rishonim, it's d'oraisa. According to the Rambam, only Tosefes Yom Kippur is d'oraisa. Tosefes Shabbos is a d'rabbanan. So in the conflict of having to eat on Erev Yom Kippur, and also having to take in extra minutes from the Erev of Yom Kippur and devote that to Yom Kippur itself and Makabel Yom Kippur earlier, there's a conflict because you're eating and now you have to stop eating in order to bring in Yom Kippur, the Kedusha, the holiness of Yom Kippur, at least a few minutes before sunset. So what do you do with people in the middle of their meal? Right? So it says here in Taf Reish Ches, Siv Beis, Nashim she'oitu v'shoisim ad al-kashecha. You have women, for example, that are eating, it applies to anybody, not just women, but it was more common by women, that they're eating and drinking, they're eating and drinking right up to sunset. When it's sunset at 6:01, so we're going to eat right up till 6 o'clock, right? And then of course, we're not going to eat after sunset, of course, Has v'sholom, of course. So we're going to straight till 6 o'clock, right? And sunset's a minute later, right? And they don't know that there's a special mitzvah to be mosif, to add on from the oil from Erev Yom Kippur on to Kodesh, meaning except Yom Kippur a few minutes early. You don't protest against them. You don't protest against them. This is the mechaber. You don't protest against them to have them stop, so they shouldn't come to do it bezada. They shouldn't come to do it with intention, maliciously. Right? They're eating, they don't know, they're going to stop before sunset. What's going to do with Tosis Yom Kippur? The Shabbat is going to deal with it. And so it is with everything that's forbidden. Meaning we say, Mutar Shahayu Shoyigim. That's the end of the quote of the Ramah here. Ramah only ended he only quoted the first part of the quote, but the statement is this: I'm reading, we say, Mutav, it's better, Shaya Shogigim, it's better that they should be doing something wrong unintentionally, V'lo Hayu Mezidin, and they shouldn't be doing it maliciously, intentionally. But Dafka, this is something specifically She'ena Meforish B'Torah. Only this is applicable in a case where something is not explicit in the Torah, like Tosefes Yom Kippur. That's not explicitly in the Torah, okay? Not explicit in the Torah. But let's say they're going to be doing something which is meforish in the Torah. You've got to protest against them in every way, shape, and form possible. There will be certain guidelines about that as well, right? Meaning Tosefes Yom Kippur. It's not meforish in the Torah, but it's doraisa. But since it's not meforish in the Torah, you don't have to protest against them, right? It's better they do it b'shoygig rather than amazing. If something is they're doing wrong, something wrong that's meforish in the Torah, right? You should protest against them. Let's say mixed dancing. Is there anything meforish in the Torah about mixed dancing?
Talk about Arias.
Arias, but Arias is
a higher level.
Arias is that's the act itself, right?
Well, a mixed dancing which you could bring to those kind of.
It could certainly bring to it. There's no doubt about it, right?
It's not meforish.
That's a good point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But something which is so close that it's going to be like you're playing with matches and you're going to start a fire, right? So maybe that's a little bit different. There were many times that the Gedolei Yisrael they put a stop. It was very common in the early days in America that they had mixed dancing, right. And not just the men dancing with the men in the room. They were dancing. They had actual mixed dancing, and they protested. They protested because that could be a little bit very more serious than any other.
What about
that's a desire to write that goes like a borders or Gili rice and Shvikas Dummy. Those could be. We mentioned about separate seating.
That's right.
That's definitely not meforish.
That's not meforish.
And well, it says in the page of English they were separate.
Well, Tikkun Gadol, they made a Tikkun Gadol.
Separate sections.
What about something like kashrus, where what's meforish in the Torah is just a very brief statement.
Right.
Don't cook the kid in its mother's milk, and all the rest of it is not meforish.
Right.
So we say it's meforish because there's one sentence.
That's a good point.
Did Moshe Rabbeinu learn all that up in Shemayim?
Everything. Yeah, Moshe.
Okay, so he learned all the Black Kosher rules.
There are a lot of details. We'll just try and finish this up. So if it's Meforish B'Torah, Mochinim B'Yadim, you have to protest against him. Ve'im Yodeh she'ein divar nishmoim, let's say you know, even perhaps, Yeshiva goes about this in detail, even you know that their words will not be learned and taken heed. In a case where it's Deraisa, Lo Yomru Berabim, right? Don't say Berabim Nochachicham, Rat Pamachas. Meaning if you know, you realize that this is a kind of a group or a person that's not going to listen to you. He's not going to listen to you. You know that. Not going to listen to you. You should only protest against him in public one time. One time. Avelo yirbu b'tochachos. Ma'achish yodeh she'en yishmo alav. But you shouldn't in public constantly protest against him, because you know he's not going to listen to you. Right? Av b'yochid chayiv la'chichichoy ad sheyichenu o yikachalenu. But a yochid, when you're not in public, you're obligated to protest against him until he hits you or until he curses you. That also, don't take these words as at face value. There's Mishna Berura, there's explanations of what these words mean, right? So in terms of your question here, related that when and how you can give tochacha is a complicated issue. It's a separate halacha in and of itself, right? And if you want, we can spend time learning that as well.
Oh, is tochacha different from chinuch?
There's actually three. There's actually, as far as I understand, there are three levels. There's chinuch, there's tochacha, and then there's mocha, protest, right? There's chinuch. You have to educate a person. So that's an obligation which is just for everyone. Any Jew that you know who's ignorant of a specific law or conduct or hashkafa, viewpoint, attitude of Yiddishkeit, you're obligated, if you can, to try and teach them.
Even if it's not Meforish.
Even if it's not
Even if it's something like this, and you'd be therefore making him amazing instead of showing.
Right. If you can educate them, you're obligated to teach them. You're obligated to teach them.
Vital fact that I heard in the name of Yaakov Domanetsky was, what is your motivation? Are you trying to show that you're better, you're stricter, or you're trying to help your fellow man? And he said, be your meno. There are very few people who have the proper motivation. He concluded that tochacha is something that we have to put aside because you're not pure motives and purely what the fact is.
Well, each situation has to be taken into consideration. You have chinuch, then you have tochacha. Tochacha is simply to try and what's called rebuke, chastise. Should know the shorish of tochacha is the same shorish as hochacha, which is a proof. Hochacha is a proof. I want to bring a hochacha, a proof. So what's the shorish of tochacha? The goal of tochacha is you're trying to prove to the person that what you're doing is detrimental to themselves, to Klal Yisrael, to the world in general. If you're dealing with a reasonable person, so you try and take an attitude. Look, again, I'm not trying to do this for my own benefit. I'm trying to try and educate you to realize that what you're doing is not in your best interests. Just as if you were, trying to teach a driver, to drive on the opposite side of the street is not in your best interests. So I'm just trying to, don't try on the opposite side of the street. You're not going to last too long. And so little things also. A person's driving on the wrong side of the road to your street, not going to last too long. He's not going to last long. He might last in this world 120 years, but it won't be lasting much longer than in the next world.
So you said direction is important.
Correct.
When I wasn't driving south,
Yeah.
everybody gets that.
Right. So that's tochacha.
That's a whole thing.
That's tochacha. And then you have what you call machor, protest. A protest, sometimes you have to simply protest against something because it's wrong. Whether they're going to listen or not, you have to protest against something which is wrong. If there are people that are doing something wrong, right, and you have, because sometimes by standing there silently, they may take it as a signal that what they're doing is right. They could go down. There was a famous incident with the Prophet Chaim, Radin. He once got up in the shul on Shabbos morning, and he said he became special to address the congregation, because he said that he wants everyone to know that he knows what everyone's doing, and they all should realize that what they're doing is wrong and it's forbidden. And he doesn't want people to come to Shemayim in 120 years and say, well, there was the Rav of Radin and he never told us what we're doing was wrong, so we never stopped doing it. Right? You didn't want anyone to have that excuse. What were they doing? There was the draft, the Russian draft, that you would take young Jewish children in at a very young age. And if a Jewish child went into the Russian army, that was the last you'd ever see him.
Cantonist.
Yeah, exactly. So what was happening was the rich people of the town were able to offer large amounts of money to the poor people in the town. And they said, look, you have 5, 6, 8 children anyway, right? And so, we'll give you a nice amount of 2,000 rubles, which is a lot of money in that day, to support the whole rest of the family. Let's switch your son for my son. We'll take your son and we'll give you a substitute. So people were doing it. They were very tempted, very, very tempted, and they were falling and failing in the test. And the Prophet had to make a protest against it.
What about when the Russian government wanted to do secular studies in the yeshivas? And the Prophet really was in the 90s, and they said, you can't go to Moscow and speak to the ministers. After 120, I don't want to have on my CV resume, using that term, that they introduced this. I didn't protest. I'm going, and he went. And I think they avoided that.
If I remember, it was it might be a similar story, but he said he spoke in Yiddish. A couple of times didn't know Russian, and he spoke in Yiddish, and he was crying, and so the person he went to speak with says, he said, I don't understand a word that he's saying, but I can see he means what he's trying to say. So I agree with him on that basis. You should never give up. Never give up.
There's also another famous story. There was once a boy in the Chofetz in Baden, and the boy started to smoke on Shabbos.
Yeah.
And it was reported to the Hanor, to the managers, to the outside. And Rebbe had to throw him out of the yeshiva. How could you let it? On Shabbos. He said, bring him into my room. He brought him to the room. He held his hand, and he says, Shabbos, Shabbos. He was crying, Shabbos. And a tear fell on the boy's hand on Shabbos. And he was not thrown out, and he stopped smoking. This story was told by Rabbi Berura when he was up in Florida, and a man of 90 sitting in the back, he said, Rebbe, I was a kid. So you see, he didn't yell at the kid, he didn't admonish him, he didn't tell him it's a terrible thing. He just said, Shabbos, and he was quiet.
It's like a story that was told by my rabbi in Los Angeles, Rabbi Berura. He said he saw a man in a mortuary, and he was told by somebody that the man was Jewish and he was having his mother cremated. So he decided to go up and talk to him. And he went up to him and he introduced himself and he talked to him. And he told him that it'd be better to bury her. And the man agreed. He buried her. And then they became friends, and the man actually became a member of his congregation. And time went by, and Rabbi was asked, what did you say to him? How did you convince him? And he said, I don't remember exactly, but let me go ask him. So he went up to the man and he said, when you first met, what did I say to you? I saw you coming up to me. I saw the expression on your face. And I said, this rabbi doesn't even know me. And yet he's so concerned about me. Whatever he says, I'm going to do.
I once asked Uri Zora. You know who Uri Zora is?
Famous.
Uri Zora?
Yeah, Uri Zora. He was a secular Israeli, very popular. He was well known in the Jewish society. He was at the top of the entertainment world. And he became a Baal Tshuva. Actually lives on this block. And so he was dying many times by us in the Yeshiva. So I think it was one weekday when Tommy lived with us. So I was just interested to know. I said, because now he's very involved with Baal Tshuva and himself. As
You could
Yeshiva.
Baal Tshuva.
Is
Is he a good Baal Tshuva in the course?
It's okay.
He uses his voice. They feel instead of top of the song.
Right. So I asked her. I said, "What's the key to making Baal Tshuvas? What's the key?" So he said, "He once asked Rav Shach, that's Ali's question. He asked Rav Shach, what's the key to making Baal Tshuvas?" So Shach told him, "Devarim sheyotzim min haleiv niknas b'leiv." Words that come from the heart go into the heart. It's not knowledge. It's not trying to put a person down.
Sincerity.
It's not trying to tell a person what's right or what's wrong. Sincerity, exactly, sincerity. If you honestly care about another Jew and try and help him, in whatever way, big or small, right, it's going to have an effect. That's what Hashem wants. Okay, we're in the middle here, we'll have to stop and continue with Hashem tomorrow.
So we'll discuss about clapping, right?
Yes, we'll continue with that tomorrow.
I often clap during Shabbos Zera, so that might be an issue.
Well, that's how it got started. We got started on this. Yeah, we got started.
And do like this.
Well, yeah, or this move.
Yeah.
Well, it's not so much clapping, but it's tapping the table.
Tapping
This
also.
is who cannot do this? This is very tempting.
Can also do with the
Yeah.
You can't do this. Right? That's it.
It's not the same schmuck, though. I can tell it's
I heard your hand.
I've never heard it raised in Breslau. We constantly clapping. I've never heard anyone ask the question.
We'll see. We're in the middle with their letters. They haven't started the Ramah. The Ramah is the side of the Shula. But again, the Ramah is not. He's not really authorizing the permissibility. He's simply dealing with the fact that they seem to be people who are doing it. So how do we understand how they do this in light of the Macabre, which is clearly you're not supposed to be doing. So in his explanation of those who are lenient, he's going to explain why there's a room for leniency and why perhaps being protest against those who are doing it. Okay, a few minutes and we'll start the Nefesh HaChaim.